Doug Faber. Let's do what I should have just done, and that is introduce Doug's evaluator. Doug's evaluator is Spencer. Spencer, you are going to tell us what Doug is trying to accomplish with his fourth speech, correct?
That is project number 4, how to say it. Selecting the right words and sentence structure to communicate your ideas clearly, accurately, vividly. Use rhetorical devices to enhance and emphasize ideas, and eliminate jargon and unnecessary words. Use correct grammar as opposed to incorrect grammar. And time is supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Now, our first speaker today, President Kleber.
It was a warm and stuffy evening in August 1967. The moisture in the air hung over the crowd as a wet towel. And as a man stepped up to the stage at this leadership conference in Atlanta, Georgia, he put forth an ugly description of an evil that had been done. And it was something that this evil that had not been unchecked would have continued to go on. The speech that was given that night was titled, "Where Do We Go From Here?" It was a lucid display that was strewn throughout that group that showed that an injustice had been done to a people group. So as Dr. Martin Luther King closed out that speech that night, he said this. So I conclude by saying, we have a task. We need to go forth with a divine dissatisfaction. A dissatisfaction that America will no longer have a high blood pressure of creeds and an anemia of deeds. A dissatisfaction that the traffic walls that separate the outer city of hope and comfort and wealth between the inner city of poverty and despair are crushed by the battering rams of injustice that are done. We need to be dissatisfied with the lives that live on the outskirts of hope as they are brought into the internals of the hope of the metropolis of securities. So as Dr. Martin Luther King finished that speech that night, he had a question. Where do we go from here? And I had that question for us today. Where do we go from here? I think there are 3 parts that we need to discuss. There's from here, where, and do we go? From here. How do you strive from here? Well, that can be very difficult to do, but we have to come up with something that describes the here for the Lunch Toastmasters. Could it be membership and its level that is here? Could it be the attendance of the members that are involved? Could it be the excitement at the meetings? Could it be the involvement at the meetings? Those are all wonderful facts that we need to be aware of as a here, but is that it? Well, as Sergeant Friday might say, just the facts, ma'am. I think no. It's more than just the facts. It's the intuition, it's the intangibles of the group that we also have to be inclusive of this question of the here. And just as Dr. King stated to us, I think we need to be dissatisfied with that position and continue to move forward. So then comes the next question, where? We have the here, but where? What's the simplest description of where? Not here. Well, that's a very vague and lazy attempt at bringing definition to a word. I think everybody's familiar with the good, better, and best scenario. Am I correct? I think Greg Smith in his book, Lost in the Pages, really hits the nail on the head when he describes this. And he talks about a discussion that he had with an elderly female friend of his. And she goes on to explain what her good, better, and best scenario are. And she says, we look at all of our actions that we do. We look at the words that we use in our speech. And we really have to come down to the question of this. Are those words, are those actions, are they merely good? Are they somewhat better? Are they awful best? Awful best? What? Sounds like a paradox in simplicity to me. But it's not awful in the sense of terrible or extremely bad, A-W-F-U-L. But it's more in a sense of awe, A-W-E, full, F-U-L-F. It's a position of knowing who we are as individuals, and then also encompassing as a group. And when we come to that awe, full, best, then we come to a place of not competition, but cooperation. We come to a place not of fear, but of love. And when those places are there, then we can move to a where of awful best. So we have a here, we have a where. Do we go? It's kind of this dualistic approach, all surrounded around this collective purpose. Do and go all around this we process. If you can kind of picture that with me. There are active verbs that are on each side of this we. There's go and there is do. They're all urging us to move along. It's kind of like they surrounded us and we kind of have to give in to their bidding. And they move us forward as a plane and its inertia that's needed to get it off the ground. But it's also there to help us in that process that moves forward. I love Tony Robbins in his speech when he kind of always talks about you're either growing or dying. There is no status. There is no standing still. There's only growth and there is death. So that is where I believe that the do we go moves forward to is this sense that we need to constantly moving and progressing forward. So that we, as a group, as a Lunch Bunch Toastmasters, can help with everybody becoming better communicators, better leaders in the process. So where do we go from here? Here's my invitation to where.